All right, welcome back everybody to our next session, and this is called Create an Advisory Workflow, and we're going to be covering some awesome information during this next hour to really help improve your business tax workflow. Again, my name is Jim Buffington. I'm a CPA and I lead advisory services here at Intuit. We really do appreciate you being a part of this virtual conference today. And I know that this is going to be an awesome session for you. And I'm excited to introduce to you our speaker for this presentation. Robbie Randall is an Intuit transformation specialist. He works with some of our largest firms in helping them embrace the cloud, lean on that QuickBooks Online platform, help change and update their processes in their office. And I'm really pleased to have him here with us today and talk about some of those best practices for firms. Welcome, Robbie.
Hey, thank you, Jim. I'm excited to be here today. I want to thank each and every one of you on the call for tuning in and listening to what we have to share with you. Little background on me: I am a veteran of the professional tax and accounting industry, QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor, and also public speaker here at Intuit. One thing you should know about me: I have a great passion around helping small businesses thrive. That's kind of how I got my start in this industry. As of late, I do work with the very largest accounting firms across the country, and just to assist them on their transformation journey from that low value compliance work to those higher value advisory services. If you get an opportunity today, please jump on LinkedIn, Small Biz Pro, or connect with me at Twitter on Small Biz Pro.
Awesome. Thank you, Robbie, and welcome. Okay, attendees, here are our learning objectives for this next hour. We are going to be covering the benefits of creating an advisory workflow, specifically for those of you who have multi-service firms with business clients, really helping automate and simplify that workflow. We're also going to help you understand how cloud technologies can automate much of the work that you and your clients do today. And then finally, we're going to give you some resources to help communicate the benefits to your clients, the benefits of moving to the cloud, collaboration, more sophisticated tax planning and strategy, real-time data, so that you can really help be an advisor for your small business clients and help them keep clean books all year long and really focus on the value of strong decision-making from good books. All right, so let's get started. This is actually Bob Goff. He's the author of Love Does and one of my favorite people. And I love this quote. He says, "I used to be afraid of failing at the things that mattered to me. Now I'm afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter." And the reason I love this quote is I'm a CPA. I have been in our profession for 30 years. And I know that many of us are so burdened and so overworked doing the tedious compliance work that we never have time to get to the financial advice that our clients need to prosper. And this session, this next hour, is going to be all about automating those tedious things so that you can get to the point where you can deliver that awesome financial advice that I know is inside of each one of you. So I hope that by the time we finish this, you are not afraid to succeed at the things that don't matter anymore. I didn't say that right, did I? I want you to focus on the things that do matter.
You nailed it.
All right. So let's get started. We are going to jump into automating and standardizing your business tax workflow. So Robbie.
All right. You ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, before we move forward, I just want to give the caveat. If you have sat on one of my webinars before, you know that we move fast, and today is going to be no different. That being said, this is not formalized training. We're going to be calling back on the Pro Advisor training constantly throughout today's session. Please do take the opportunity to get Pro Advisor certified. That said, let's jump right into it. One of the biggest opportunities that we found and the feedback that we get from accounting professionals is that there is a mess of work associated with using legacy desktop products like QuickBooks Desktop. The problems come in transferring the files, getting the data, the thumb drives, going to the client's office, paying for hosted solutions. All of those items build up and it creates a mess of a time-consuming workflow for you. And the bad news is also for your clients. They're not thrilled about that process either. So I was speaking with an accounting pro and she was telling me that QuickBooks Online is just too difficult for her clients to use. So we sat and we wrote down all of the things that her customers go through on a daily basis to transfer those files. That is what you're looking at on the left. These all came from a pro like you. Now compare that to a single password and username access on the right, and you see that it's actually much easier to use online applications like QuickBooks Online. Simply log in with your username, which is your email address, put in your password, and you're in there. That goes for your staff as well. One last thing, Jim, before we move forward, if you look over on the left, that entire list, our data shows that your clients have about a 50% attrition rate. For every step, every bullet point, there's a 50% dropout rate. Talk about trying to get things done efficiently. That creates a mess come tax season.
Yeah, terrible experience for clients and for firms. You tell us that as much as a third of the whole tax preparation process is just collecting data. So moving to that QuickBooks Online platform helps automate that whole data collection process.
And in many cases, eliminate it.
Yeah, eliminate it.
So what does that single logon look like? You'll notice on the top left, it does say accountant. You want to make sure that you and all of your staff are in the same accountant's edition. That creates a dashboard view of all of your clients. From there, you can then assign team members or users, and then also user rights. So we want to have a single dashboard view for the firm. And then under the firm, you have all of your users, and all of those users have access rights. Very easy to do. That is found under team over on the top left. Yeah. One thing I will add before we move forward, Jim, if it doesn't say accountant on the top left, if it says QuickBooks spelled out, you're actually in your client's books as a user. No bueno. We're going to tell you why here in a little bit. Some of the features you're going to be missing out on if you're not in the accountant's edition, but that's a quick way to verify if you're in the right.
Right. Yeah. It should be green at the top, not black. If it's black, correct, and hopefully you're not colorblind, the black is your client's version. Do not log into their books.
Just don't do it.
It's doing it wrong.
Again, we're going to show you why. We're going to prove out why here in just a little bit, but that's so important.
Awesome. Thank you, Robbie.
All right, automation of access, maintenance, storage, and security. Now, there is a lot happening on this slide. You will get a copy of this deck here pretty soon if you haven't downloaded it already. The main things to know is that it gives all of your team and your client a single point of access for the books. You don't have to chase down multiple versions, multiple years, all the things that you have to go through currently with Legacy Desktop. Speaking about multiple years, all of that data takes up space. Not only that, someone has to maintain it, and then you compound that data with the fact that someone has to secure it. So having an online cloud platform, it eliminates all of those prior years data, all those terabytes of data that you might be keeping on your desktop or on a server somewhere, and it kind of hands that off to a single point of access, which is much, much smoother.
Yeah, and you can use a Mac. We often hear from folks who want to use Mac, and they struggle with those QuickBooks desktop files back and forth. So
great point.
Yeah, and your clients can do it on a mobile device too. So lots of different device access, and just simplifies everything.
Absolutely. Simplification will also build in security. I have been in your offices and I've seen the sticky notes with the usernames and the passwords that you pass around to get access into different applications. We want to eliminate all of that in QuickBooks Online. All right, so let's talk a little bit about automated categorization and real-time data. You'll notice on the left with desktop accounting, it's basically a historical or what we call an after-the-fact mindset. No matter what you do in the desktop, when you get the data and you clean it up and you produce the financial, and then you turn over those financials or compilations over to the client, that data is historical. It's old. It's not real time. For some of your offices, that might be 30, 45 days. I happen to know during tax season, if we're being honest with each other, that can actually be a little longer, if not a lot longer. So you're in a historical mindset, you're swapping files, lots of manual entry, manually entering checks and deposits, maintaining multiple prior years. All of these things are baked into this legacy desktop workflow. QuickBooks Online is going to simplify that. It's going to automate it. And the benefit is the real-time data for you and your clients. There's nothing worse as a business owner to go into my CPA's office, have them clean up my books at tax time, and then tell me, if last March you would have done this a little differently, now 9 months later, you'd have a different outcome. As a business owner in today's world, I need real-time data. I can't wait 9 months to make changes.
Yeah. And that QuickBooks Online platform is going to do a lot of the automation for that business owner. They're spending 21 hours a week doing back office work, like paying bills and categorizing transactions. The bank feeds, the bank rules that you can help them with is killer. As a matter of fact, now a new feature is you can copy those bank rules from one client to all your clients.
Oh, yeah.
So once you get those set up, you don't have to redo it for every client. You just copy them over.
Huge time saver.
Huge time saver. Yeah. And a lot of firms, too, use this platform, this collaboration platform, to do more strategic tax planning. Now you don't have to ask the client to bring a lot of things in. You can be more proactive.
Yeah.
You can start creating more tax strategies early in the year and help them really start saving. And by the way, leading firms are also quantifying and measuring the value of those tax savings.
Difference.
So make sure that you bake that into your process.
I mean, these are things you just can't do in legacy desktop products. With that historical backward-looking data, it doesn't allow us to project and plan the way that we can with real-time data in the cloud.
Yeah.
All right. Remember I told you we were going to talk about ProAdvisor training. So ProAdvisor training, we're going to give you that information at the end. I would encourage anyone who can hear my voice, if you are not already ProAdvisor certified, please do so. I would also ask that anyone in your firm that touches the books, will touch QuickBooks Online, please make sure they are also ProAdvisor certified. Now, one last caveat, we would want to see at least one of your team members go ahead and get the advanced certification. It's just good to have that tribal knowledge on site.
Yeah. And how much does that cost?
It's free.
Free.
It's absolutely free.
Love that.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the ProAdvisor training. Some of the things that you're going to find within there is that there's a new tab within QuickBooks Online. We launched this in November at QuickBooks Connect. It's called Bookkeeping Review. Summarize the slide. We are going to, whenever you get a set of books, let's say it's at the end of the year for tax time, artificial intelligence is going to go in and locate issues, bubble those up, highlight them, and allow you to easily and quickly fix them and move on with your life. What we found is that whenever you get a set of books, say quarterly, end of the year, it can take you anywhere from 4 to 8 hours to do that research and cleanup that you need to do. With this new bookkeeping review tab, it takes those hours literally, quite literally, down to minutes.
Yeah, awesome tool. And again, it's actually finding the errors that accountants have told us about. So all of the things that you regularly go in and look for, miscategorizations, things that aren't categorized, deposits that aren't classified, opening balance equity, negative asset accounts, all those things that you've already identified, we are now using artificial intelligence to surface up and say, here's an issue, and give you the quick link to get that resolved.
Hours to minutes.
Love that. Love that. Huge time saver. Again, trying to make your business tax workflow more automated, more standardized, really make you more effective.
Absolutely. Okay, so a second piece of that, and this is found within the Accountant's Toolbox. This is called Reclassification. Now, this should look very similar to the desktop or what you're used to in the desktop. You can easily reclassify by account or class. Now, we'll say if you're not in the Accountant's Edition, remember, if you log into your client's books as a user, you're not going to have the Accountant's Toolbox. You're not going to have access to the reclassification tool. And of course, you can do batch reclassifications, all very simply, very easily. This is just giving you another blowout of what that looks like up close.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then, of course, multiple transactions are easily transacted as well.
Yeah, and we know that you oftentimes go in and move things around, maybe things that aren't deductible or things that have been classified incorrectly. This gives you the ability to do that easily and to do it because you have access to the books on your schedule. You can do it during the year. You can do it throughout the year to keep the books clean.
There's benefit to that. All right, Accountant's Toolbox, I kind of teased it up on the last few slides, but again, make sure you're in the Accountant's Edition. In the Accountant's Toolbox, you're going to find shortcuts to reporting. There are accountant-only reports that you're going to find in there, management reports, and then also you can easily customize reports. One thing about reports, and let's just be frank, a big part of your time is putting together, collecting, packaging, delivering reports. In fact, it takes so much time that it's difficult to scale that across all of our clients. So typically what we do, or what I see you do, is that you reserve that for your top 10 to 15%, that top tier of clients. You'll offer that as a deliverable. My recommendation to you would be to automate it across all of your clients. Make it a deliverable that the system can generate, the system can send out, and that goes for the compilation reports as well.
So actually setting up your clients to get automated reports from QuickBooks Online. So things like a P&L on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one great example is if you're working with a client, let's say you have a client that is having some issues with inventory, or maybe, if they're like, was it 2/3 of business owners today are struggling with cash flow, and you want them to keep an eye on that inventory. You want them to keep an eye on that cash flow. You can set up QuickBooks Online to automatically send those respective reports to the client every Monday morning. Once you set up the system to do that, it'll do it in the background. It'll do it while you sleep. You don't have to spend all night, Sunday night, preparing that information for the client.
Love that. Love that. And do you get that automation in desktop?
You do not get that automation in desktop. And again, automation, it just builds in that capacity that you need to start offering those higher value advisory services.
Great. Love that. Helps really scale staff and create more capacity in the office. Love that.
All right. Some other things you're going to find in the Accountant's Toolbox. You can easily get to the chart of accounts. You can open multiple windows in QuickBooks Online. I mean, we've been talking about this for years now. If that's new information for you, simply jump on the Google QBO, multiple windows, and there's tons of information out there for you. One last thing, we do have an integrated tax solution called ProConnect Tax Online, and it can move QBO data into ProConnect Tax Online, and we're going to show you how that works here in just a little bit, but that is a fantastic time savings during tax season.
Yep, and that's available on the Accountant's Toolbox there, so make sure that you're aware of that tool, and tax integrated right there at the bottom of the toolbox there.
Absolutely. Accountant's Edition is completely free, so it's not like legacy desktop products for you and your firm. Completely free. No good reason why everyone in the firm shouldn't be in the Accountant's Edition. All right, let's talk a little bit about preparing the client's books and also closing the books. These are modules 8 and lesson 5 in the Pro Advisor training. All right, month end, closing the books to prevent errors. Here's a great way to keep your clients from making a mess of things after you've already cleaned it up. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with pros and they just have the worst headache over the fact that they spent all this time getting things right. And then a customer goes in, starts ticking around on some buttons, and the next thing you know, you got a mess on your hands. So what you can do is you can actually go into the Accountant's Toolbox and close the books and create a password that anyone would need to go in and make changes. And this is that screen showing you that here. Now, we do have some professionals that have fun with the password. I would urge you to do the same. I've heard things like making the password 5,000. And why would you make it 5,000? Because when your customer calls you up and says, hey, I want to make a change, you tell them the password and they say, hey, what's that password about? And you share with them, that's what I'm about to charge you for fixing whatever you're about to break. So lots of ways to have fun. I heard another password. It was no. So whatever you want to make it, just know that you can lock down the books.
Yeah. And again, you're the professional. You should be setting this up to standardize it and simplify it for your clients so that they have strong guardrails. Like being a parent, you want good guardrails
Exactly.
so that they don't mess things up. the close period tool is awesome for professionals. So as a tax professional, as you're going through, if you meet with that client quarterly or you review their books quarterly and you're doing some advanced tax planning and you make a few cleanup things, make sure that you take the time to close that period and keep moving it forward throughout the year. And you are going to be simplifying your tax prep enormously when you get to the next year.
That's the key, right? I know we need to stay on time. I cannot stress enough how important it is to do this work throughout the year. What ends up happening is as you close out periods, when you get to the end of December, you close out the period. And then what ends up happening is that your team is doing taxes on your schedule, not the client's schedule. So if you want to, do a imagine game with me for a minute, imagine not having extensions from April through October.
Wow.
What would you do with that time?
Wow, that's pretty huge.
Better yet, what would that be like for your clients? Imagine the headache that they get from you nagging them all summer for that data. It's going to create a delightful client experience and also free up a ton of capacity for the firm.
Yeah, and we hear today that professionals extend about 60% or more of those business returns every single year. Most of those get extended all the way out to the final deadline. So that's 6 months after, their due date. So that's a lot of capacity and a lot of time.
It is.
That you're actually helping free up.
I bet we could do a whole other session on work-life balance.
Yeah.
The depression that comes with a compressed season, all of those items. So
yeah, let's just run a little contest about what people are doing with all that extra free time.
Exactly.
So, and do you want to touch on this report while we're here on closing?
For sure. So one of the biggest questions that we get, or one of the questions we get the most often when we talk about locking down periods, is what happens if someone makes changes after we lock it down or after we close out a period. And there's a very quick report that you can pull that'll highlight those changes for you. So don't want you to ever feel like you're going to lock something down or close something out and then it's going to get messed up and you're not going to be able to find out what. We do have an exception report for you built right in.
Sure. Yeah. And again, that can be done with guardrails. Again, sometimes you do have to credit an account that's an invoice that's back in the future or back in the past, and maybe voided transactions. Every once in a while you have to. That's actually going to help you find exactly what changed. Great.
All right, moving on. Module 8, Lesson 4 in the Pro Advisor training, preparing the client's books to prep for tax season.
Okay.
All right, Prep for Taxes tool. This is only found, again, in the Accountant's Edition. If you go to the Toolbox at the very top and click on Prep for Taxes, what our team has done, they have put the balance sheet and the profit and loss all on one screen for you. Right in one place where you need to do the work for tax time. Now from here, you'll notice at the very top, you could change accrual and cash basis. You'll see the balance sheet and the P&L are highlighted there on the left. And then if you were to drill down a little bit, you'll notice again, if changes are made after you've locked the trial balance, we're going to bubble that information up to you to make sure that you are aware of it. Now, you can choose to accept or view those changes before anything happens.
And that's important because QuickBooks is a perpetual system where the client is going to continue working in their books. Yes. And most tax professionals want to kind of freeze things in order to start tying down the assets, tying down the balance sheets, making sure the tax entries are done. And this gives you the ability to freeze that, work on it, but then before you actually get ready to prepare that return or finalize it, you can see any other changes that may have been made back in December and say, oh, okay, do we want to accept those and update it, or do we maybe want to go in and should those belong in the next year, something like that? You can make that evaluation. Most of the time, you probably accept it. But it is nice that the trial balance can always be updated from other changes that are made in the books until you close that period, and then they can no longer work in that prior year. So it really gives the tax professional all the control to effectively prepare that tax return while the client is still running their business.
Super important. And I believe that's another differentiator from the desktop as well. You have to jump out of the file.
Yeah, oftentimes what we find is, tax adjustments you do a lot of work creating those tax adjustments, cleaning things up, but only about half of the time those adjustments make it back into the client's books.
I've seen that in the spreadsheets that the pros keep. They'll keep those prior quarter adjustments in that spreadsheet so they know where they were last, so they can do the last work to do the last work to do today's work. So I'm glad to see that there's tools that can help them with that. Prep for taxes. So this is all in service to getting ready for the tax return. Do keep in mind, QuickBooks Online is also a document manager. You can upload documents, work papers. You can make notes per account. You can make adjustments per account, all easily from that one screen.
Yeah, I love that.
We talked
Saving
about
the work papers.
Yeah, the work papers. We talked about the changing the accounting method. Very easy to do. It's a radio button. And then also tax mapping is another big one in this area. We have so many patents in artificial intelligence. We have something like over 100 machine learning cycles happening at this very moment. What that means for you is that when we get to items like tax mapping, the system is going to map those items for you. Of course, you can go in and reassign lines, or if there are items that aren't recognized by the machine, you can then map those items. The machine's going to learn from your behavior, and then it's going to repeat that behavior next year. So it's a one and done. This is a screen just to let you know that once that mapping is done, you can then export that data to any type of tax return.
Yeah, I love that. And all the returns are on there, including Schedule C's, 1120S's, 1041s, you name it. You can map to any of those tax returns.
Absolutely. Please don't get the impression that this is not a sophisticated tax mapping tool. So just to give you an idea, if there are items that are not mapped or matched, those are going to get bubbled up to the top for you to address.
Yeah. And again, we're going to auto map some of that, but the things that aren't auto mapped, you're going to map to the right tax lines, and then it's going to be memorized so that it's there the next year. And you can literally just push that button to move that over, and it's going to save those mappings year over year. Again, that's not always the case on desktop. Sometimes that's a little bit more wonky. Yeah, a little more wonky.
All right, and this is an example of how you would want to change that tax mapping. Over on the right of the screen, you'll see the little pencil. Simply click the pencil, change the tax mapping, and move on with your life. All right, so now on the top right, here's where things get pretty interesting. Click that green button. It's going to give you a drop-down menu choice. Now, you can update an existing return, and that does include scenarios of returns. So if you have multiple returns for scenario purposes, you can select which of those returns to update. Or if you're using another tax program, you can simply export to CSV and then import it into that tax program. We do want to give you the option here from the export to tax.
Yeah, so you can actually export to a CSV or an Excel file and then import that directly into Lacert if you're using the desktop software. Pro Series, you can actually just key that into your Pro Series program. Or if you're using ProConnect Tax Online, you can just push the button to
take it right into ProConnect Tax Online. Here's the beauty of what's happening here. You're noticing the screen over on the right. You see the pop-up with the blue button. It's actually taking us much longer to explain what's happening than how it actually works. I mean, we're talking seconds of that data being transferred into the tax program. Here's what it looks like. You've got your trial balance and QBO on QuickBooks Online on the left. Over on the right, you've got Tax Online, where that data has been mapped and pushed into the tax return. Again, corporate returns, 1065 returns. I think something like our data shows that the average 1120S or 1065, on average, it takes you about 4 hours of data entry. I mean, literally, you can cut that down to seconds.
Yeah, and again, that gets it ready to review. You're still going to have to make a few adjustments in there, and we've got some help articles to kind of guide you on that. But literally just importing all of the accounts directly to the tax lines. And if you want detail on some of those tax lines, that's available.
Of course.
Or if you want them summarized, you can have it in there that way. So lots of flexibility so that you as a tax pro can still deliver the kind of tax return that you're used to doing. But yeah, it makes it ready to review. And then you jump over to ProConnect Tax Online, review the diagnostics, maybe make a few adjustments in there. And it's basically ready to file. And you can do that as soon as you close out that last month. So
Absolutely.
you do it on your schedule instead of waiting for the client.
Or God forbid, put it on extension and
Yeah,
spend the whole summer.
No more extensions.
So let me challenge you a little bit. Let me challenge your thinking a little bit on this. So let's put it this way. 4 hours for a data entry, it is going to be incredibly difficult to stay competitive when your office is taking 4 to 6 hours for data entry on an 1120S or a 1065, when the firm across the street does a 20-minute review of the same work. Again, 4 hours, 20 minutes. I would urge you, if you haven't yet, start investigating this technology. It's important that you understand it and learn how to leverage it moving forward.
Yeah, and many of our pros are very fast at doing data entry, and we get that. But then when they have to go back and update that return a little bit later, that can take a long time to find that one thing that's not balancing. And the nice thing about being integrated directly with QuickBooks Online is you just go back, you push the button again, and it's going to update that tax return with new numbers.
Absolutely.
Instead of you having to go figure out where to put that in the return and balance that return again.
Or trusting a seasonal employee who may or may not know what they're looking for. So yeah, it's a very good example.
Yeah, and so that's a good point. It really scales your expertise too. And again, all of these things that we're sharing with you is helping you automate more of your workflow and be able to scale much better. And this creates a standardized process that's repeatable. So once you map that the first time, you're basically done. And you don't have to keep doing data entry year after year.
Very good. So the tax return is done and ready for review.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's time for a poll question.
You got some awesome tips here, and just want to say thank you, Robbie, for sharing some great insights and automation tips that can help automate and standardize that business tax work.
It's my pleasure.
And Robbie, share a little bit more in terms of maybe some year-end tasks that our folks should be doing to standardize their tax process for their business clients.
Absolutely. So let's get back into it. So again, this is found in your Pro Advisor training. I urge everyone to get that Pro Advisor training. In the training, you will find a year-end accounting checklist. These are just the standardized steps that you want to take to get ready for that tax return. With seasonal employees, this is super helpful to help them kind of go down the list and make sure everything is ticked and tied down for your year end. Some of those things that, evaluate the accounts receivable, accounts payable, run the tax table sales report, all that's available in our program. Just to drill in a little bit on what some of that looks like, this is what verifying the balance sheet would include. You want to check all accounts, make sure they're reconciled, verify amounts, match back on the balance sheet. Key reports that you may want to build out. You'll notice in QuickBooks Online, when you build out customized reports, you can also create report groups. This is an excellent example of a report group for tax season. So you name it whatever you like, tax key reports or key tax reports. Include your balance sheet, your summaries, your history, reconciliation discrepancy is always a good one. And then of course, payroll liability.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, here's a same example with a P&L. Not going to drill too much into this, but again, this is super helpful as you go through that checklist for tax season.
Yeah, and most of our professionals are familiar with how to use these reports from QuickBooks Desktop. But can you drill into all these expenses just to kind of check those out and make sure they're...
You certainly can. Keep in mind that these are live reports and these are mostly hyperlinked scenarios that we're talking about. So if you want to drill into a number, just click it and it's going to take you right where you need to be. What's interesting when I speak with large firms is that a lot of the senior staff know this stuff and they do it. But when I ask, is it formalized? Is it documented? The overwhelmingly no. There's a lot of these processes that just don't get documented. So we've done a lot of that heavy lift for you.
Great.
All right, another example of accounts receivable and accounts payable. Key actions, make sure all those bills have been recorded, make sure all the payments have been received and recorded, and then of course some key reports for that. Just to reiterate, in QuickBooks Online, you can create report bundles. Maybe you create an AP/AR report bundle just to make it easy for you and your staff.
And great tools in your accountant toolbox to write off invoices that are old or need to be removed, those negative amounts, things like that. Great tools in there. So
yeah, great point. Fixed assets depreciation, that's super important for businesses as well. Again, you could create a report bundle for this as well.
Yeah, and probably review that periodically during the year before you get to the end of the year so you can book those assets and start booking that depreciation. By the way, many people don't know that in all of our tax products, they can actually put the fixed assets into the prior year tax program.
How about that?
So this last year, that's 2019, you could put those 19 assets into the 18 program with the 19 date to keep running your depreciation during the year. Or you can wait until the 19 program comes out in November. You can put them in there. Either place, but you can get the depreciation expense from January 1st forward on assets that are put in the current year. So you don't have to wait until March of the year following when you're getting ready to file that tax return.
Way too late.
To figure out what the depreciation implications are. And there's, with all the special and bonus and all of the QBI calculations, you as a tax professional want to be tracking those fixed assets early and making sure that you incorporate that into your tax strategy, into your tax planning, and doing that during the year. That actually, while we're here, and the next session is actually going to be Deb's talking about bundled services, but being collaborative, being on this QuickBooks Online platform really helps support you as you change your services from being a tax preparer to being more of a tax strategist and engaging with your client multiple times during the year and really focusing on tax saving strategies and helping move from just a transactional client that you're just doing preparation for into really coaching, advising, quantifying those tax strategies and making a difference with your clients. So this platform really helps support your service transition towards a firm that's, on the cloud, collaborating and really leading with advisory services.
Very good. Tax table sales report. It's also available. Yeah. Run the tax table. Make sure you have that done during tax season. Year-end financial reports with your clients. We do have management reports baked into QuickBooks Online. Those are fully customizable. You can have cover letters, table of contents, headers, footers, logos,
wow,
color, everything that you need to be as colorful or as aseptic as you like that report to be.
Yeah, we often hear from pros that the reporting in QuickBooks Online is not as good as the desktop. What do you tell folks like that?
Shenanigans. Shenanigans. Not only that, I think there's two things happening there. One is there's an educational piece where we do have things available that you may not be aware of, which is fair. And then the other piece is when we talk about client value. And I had this conversation just yesterday, and it was actually proposed to me. It's not the font, it's the expertise, right? It's not the color or the graphic. It's the learning and the sharing and the insights behind that report. So I would say in most cases, ask your client, are they finding value in that monthly financial, or does it go straight to file 13? Mm-hmm. If it's not something that's delivering an insane amount of value, maybe we should reconsider reports as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, speed, they want timely. Everybody's moving fast these days. Business is competitive. So
it's more of a dashboard.
Yeah, right? Clients just need their information at their fingertips. 30 days, 60 days, months late is not helpful. So
not at all.
Even if it looks beautiful and it has a great binder on it, it's not necessarily valuable to today's business clients. So make sure we're delivering what they value.
No doubt. And then how do I take that data and take action on it? Right. I think that's where the future is with this information and this data. Data is the new currency. And I think if you, as fast and as efficiently as you can start to leverage that data to give those insights to make changes that benefit the company and the individual, I think you'll be better off.
Yeah. So we're focused right here on business tax workflow, automating steps to make our business tax process more standardized, make our professionals more effective. But I also just want to say we're seeing more firms lean into CAS.
Yes.
Client advisory services. And AICPA reports that actually has a growth rate of about 3 times as much as compliance services.
How about that?
So that's actually a big growth opportunity. So once you've again, we're focused mostly on the tax, But once you've done this, you're not that far away from just helping coach on the accounting and the advisory side on the same platform. You've already got the financials there. You're already doing financials for tax. Now just lean a little bit more into that client advisory services.
It's not much of a pivot.
And what, I think there's some great stats out there from AICPA, from Bill.com, from industry thought leaders. But a couple of the ones that I love that stick out to me are small businesses that outsource their client accounting services are 75% more likely to report higher profits. That's huge.
That is huge.
So you as a professional being engaged with your client helps them increase their profits. That's an awesome stat that you should be sharing with your clients in order to talk about the value that you're going to deliver.
Incredible.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
All right. W-2s, 1099s. Yes, you could submit W-2s for employees. Yes, you could submit 1099s for contractors. In fact, we just rolled out 3 new payroll tiers. Some of our payroll now includes HR, employee benefit services. We have expanded upon our online payroll. And the best part is it all integrates with QuickBooks Online. So all available for you. That is found under the workers tab there on the left. And then if you're looking for the tax filings, again, that's just right below that on the taxes section.
Yeah, because we do know that filing W-2s and 1099s is a big part of what you do in addition to the income tax prep. So you can do all of that within the same single space within QuickBooks Online Accountant.
One-stop shop.
All right, great. Here's just a few more things. I don't think we need to go into all that, but maybe another checklist that you print out from that PDF deck that you can get in the handout section and help standardize your business tax workflow. All right, Robbie, I think next we need to talk about how our tax professionals can communicate the benefits of moving to the cloud to their clients and help them get comfortable with moving maybe from QuickBooks Desktop or maybe even Excel or a shoebox accounting system into working online.
That can be difficult.
Yeah, we oftentimes hear that our professionals are not comfortable saying, hey, we're going to move to the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about some of the best practices that we've learned from other firms. And by the way, this is just a very brief summary of some of the things that Robbie covered in terms of helping you automate and standardize your business tax workflow. Those are just kind of some of the areas, not even all of them, that we touched on that can really make a dramatic difference. For your clients, they're spending 21 hours a week on average doing back office things that don't add value to their customers or to their business. And when they move to the cloud, when they start taking advantage of automation, the cloud and QBO cuts that time in half. So you, as a tax professional, can actually give them back the gift of 40 hours a month. That's huge.
That's a lot of time.
That's huge. As well as, helping them understand the value of clean books so that they can have access to real-time data and make better decisions during the year.
Absolutely. I think some of the fear comes from having to, quote, sell the idea of cloud. And the reality is that these folks, and we might be one of the last strongholds as an industry for dragging our heels with legacy desktop products and not moving to the cloud. The world is in the cloud right now. So it's not that big a lift or a difficult conversation to kind of share the value of what some of these changes can mean for these business owners.
Yeah, 6 billion mobile phones and mobile connected devices out there. 6 billion. Yeah, that's a lot
to me. I remember the before flip, right?
Yeah. Yes. I think we all can. So one of the things that we've learned is that communicating the benefits to clients and the reasons that you're changing is helpful. And you're already a trusted advisor. Most of you have had relationships with your clients for decades. They trust you. They're looking to you to recommend the best solution. So when you have confidence and when you recommend, they usually are going to follow. What we find is tax professionals are worried they'll lose clients or they'll be upset or something. Does that happen?
No, I would not at all.
Yeah, most of the time they're pretty much, hey, if that's what you recommend, then we're going to go there. There's usually conversations about increased cost or how things are going to work, onboarding, learning
training,
things.
right?
So you want to make sure you have a good plan.
I wouldn't say that the firms that I work with are lose clients that way. I think they really start to kind of reconsider what is the right client. So it feels more like it's from the firm making that decision, less about the client just digging in their heels and saying no way.
Right.
I think the firm really starts to look at what is the time we're taking in this file, what is the processes that we're having to employ to get the work done, how easy is it to work with the client, to work on their information, to get information back. Is it collaborative? Are we trusted?
Mm-hmm.
Do they see our value? And it's a different conversation when you start to look at it that way.
So we've given you in your deck a little bit of a communication to help you articulate that you're focusing more on tax planning and tax strategy to help your clients reach their long-term goals. And as part of that, you're moving, including their books, to a cloud platform, QBO, which is similar to probably what they're used to, but maybe a little bit different, so that you can automate more, so that you can give them more time back, so that you can collaborate more and make a bigger difference. And just sharing with them some of the benefits. In the next session with Deb, she's going to share with you how to frame your services as bundled services and kind of move away from that traditional billing model that holds us back and maybe actually locks us down into some behaviors that aren't necessarily the most profitable, efficient, or effective for our practices.
It robs the firm of your value. There was a statistic on there that says 89% or businesses are 89% more successful when they connect with an accountant. Now, when you contrast that with about 50% of all businesses failing in the first 5 years, or was it roughly a third of businesses failing within the first 2 years, to be able to connect with an accountant and have close to a 90% success rate is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And this latest generation of clients, these millennials, they're not only digital natives, they are the most entrepreneurial generation we have ever seen. They are more entrepreneurial than the boomer generation, which was the prior most entrepreneurial. So they're creating businesses at a higher rate than anybody in the past. So you want to make sure that you are positioned to serve these digital natives. And 8 out of 10 of these new businesses are choosing cloud, not just for accounting, for everything they do.
Question.
They are literally starting their businesses on a mobile device.
How about that?
Oftentimes, our tax professionals ask us, what is the big benefit of QuickBooks Online? What's the benefit of moving to the cloud? And there are huge benefits that can't be found on the desktop. The very first is access to mobile data. As we mentioned, business owners, we actually had a survey that 2/3 of business owners say they could not survive without mobile access to their data. They'd be out of business if they did not have mobile access to their data. That's huge.
It's a big number.
And pretty much every business is relying on the internet and some version of cloud in their business today.
Isn't that ironic? Most of our firms, and even, you live and die on your phone. I go into firms, everyone takes their phone out, puts it on the table as we start our meeting. And we're operating in the cloud, we're on our phones, we're doing all these things, but yet when it comes to our clients, we're chaining them to legacy desktop products. And again, we might be the last stronghold as an industry to force folks into desktop, which is kind of ironic. But
the second big thing is automation, and Robbie touched on some awesome automation within QuickBooks Online. And by the way, that is just the beginning. Intuit is continuing to add way more automation to help simplify all of those tasks. The next thing is growth. So what we find is small businesses find that the cloud opens up boundaries, opens up more customers, speeds up cash flow, helps them grow faster, helps them access talent in remote locations, including our tax professionals. That's one of the reasons that many firms are moving to the cloud, is to get access to remote talent that's more affordable maybe than the location where they're at. So huge growth opportunities by moving to the cloud. The next thing really has to do with you as a professional, and that is delivering richer insights. And the cloud has great dashboards, great insights, more real-time data that you can help that small business use for better decision making. And then finally, cash flow. That is the primary reason that most businesses fail. We at Intuit here want to help power prosperity, and we do that through you, financial professionals who help these small businesses succeed. And there are so many opportunities that are preventable. But if you only see that client once a year, you don't realize just how bad a shape they're in. So when you move to the cloud, when you engage with them, you have an opportunity to make a huge difference in their cash flow.
Absolutely. I've seen it. I've been in the offices, and you see the tax professional ask your client, hey, how's your year? How's everything going? It is great, right? But the data shows it is not so good. And frankly, meeting once a year, it's tough to really build the relationship where people want to share some of that stuff that's going on in the background, the stuff that's really keeping them up at night, having those tough conversations with their spouses in the evening. And monthly cadence, more frequent cadence helps you do that.
Yeah. And one thing that you can use to help sell, we have some professionals that do this, is setting those books up on QuickBooks Online, putting their logo in there, and then showing them the mobile app, which is just amazing. And I'm going to ask my friend Woody to give us a quick overview of what your small business clients can do on their mobile phones with the mobile app with shared data. So take it away, Woody.
Thanks for watching this short video. It focuses on an overview of the mobile app that you can download onto your phone. So next time you're in the apps on your iPhone or Droid or whatever, just go ahead and download QuickBooks. We have a self-employed one, but I'm going to be in the QBO one. QuickBooks one is for QBO, not desktop, but for QuickBooks Online. So you just click on QuickBooks, and it'll open up, and here is your dashboard. Right, gives you a profit and loss, kind of a chart and graph, and then I can view the specific, chart itself, or I can click View Report, and it gives me my P&L. So it's P&L and a balance sheet. If we go back home, I can click Review Transactions, and this would be banking. So I see that I have 47 new transactions. I can click over here, and I can just swipe to the right, and this just accepts it into the register, if you will, right? As you're going through, you can even look at the recognized ones and click Accept All at the bottom if I wanted to. I can't do a reconcile from here, but that gives me, the option. And then I can sort by date amount, A to Z, money in, money out, or even select multiple. Now, when you click Add, I can actually add a bank to my QBO file from the phone app as well. Now, you'll see invoices that are open and paid. I'll see some account balances. This is all still on the home page on the dashboard. We'll get to the plus sign in a second. When I click on Activity to the right of dashboard, these would be my recent transactions, right? I just added an expense today at 116, right? Because those came in the feed, right? Those two, both at 116. Then I did some work on a demo earlier today. So that's left over from there. So it's like your last bunch of transactions, if you will. And I even have an attachment here with a note. We'll talk about notes in a bit too. Some cool stuff you can do with a phone app for QBO or on the tablet. Now, if you need full functionality, like I won't be able to do a reconcile, I can't get to the manage user windows, not a whole lot of accountant settings. So there's going to be some feature sets that are not accessible when I'm using the mobile app for QBO. But I could always log in natively to qbo.intuit.com, on a browser on the phone, but it's not really optimized for it. So I still like this app, particularly when you're out and going along. Go back to the dashboard. I am going to click the plus sign, and here are the available transactions that can be entered using the mobile app. I have the sales receipt, expense, bank deposit, estimate, invoice, and payment. I'm also going to click the 3 lines, hamburger icon, if you will, in the upper left next to home. It tells me the file I'm in, notes and attachments. So obviously there's a feed there, and these are all the attachments that I have. Notes, attachments, here's my products and services list. And yes, I can add an item if I want, or a product or a service, and you can do a search especially by clicking search. So on all of these lists, like products and services, customers, they have a little search field, right? And it's helpful to drill in on a customer and see their address. You can do that all from here as well. Vendors as well, and then banking, of course, is bank feeds. You have your chart of accounts, and then we have the transactions. And then down below, there's 2 reports, and then you have some settings, but that's not the accountant settings. Speaking of attachments, creating transactions, from the mobile app when you're out, I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign next to expense. And I could have done that from the dashboard plus sign, and this is what it looks like. Take a photo. And here I can go ahead and take a picture of a receipt. So you take the pic. There's my receipt. Click use this photo. And then you can fill it out exactly what it was. So it was $23.56. And it was other because it was like a debit card. Company checking. Who did I pay? See, this is where you can either scroll through or just do a search for a particular vendor. There you go. McDonald's. Don't judge. Good stuff. Value meal, right? Sometimes it'll come over with an account already taken care of, local meals. But look, I can assign a location or a class, or I can do some job costing to pass this expense through. Add a split, put a reference number or a memo at the bottom. So I'm creating the transaction. In the QBO file, it will actually match to the bank feed 2 days later, right, with the receipt attached. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. Another thing to point out too, let's do an estimate. Let's say you're out at your customer. You can create a new estimate, but you can also take a signature. So once I create the estimate, there's this get signature down here, and that's on the estimate and the invoice. So then that person can sign it, you know? That's pretty sweet. I can't really do that inside, and I can choose who accepted by or convert to invoice or whatever. So now I have the saving signature. I always thought that was kind of nifty. You know, and of course you can convert it to an invoice from here. You can also add documents. I could go add an attachment or notes if I will, the edit icon, and then you have the, again, the little 3 dots, you know, the ellipsis on the upper right of transactions. It'll give you some other options, like the more button when you're on a transaction in the browser of QBO, pretty similar. So I can convert to an invoice, or here are the other options: preview email, you know, export, copy, delete. The signature capture is on the estimate and the invoice, not the sales receipt, because the sales receipt's like paid, right? So why would you do a signature? But I just wanted to make sure. Track the activity. Go back into the left-hand panel. So again, bank deposits. And those are the supported transactions. Couple reports. You don't have much for settings. Payroll will open up into an online payroll. And then notes and attachments. I can see, I can write notes, and I can also attach things right into QuickBooks Online. Quick note. We'll see where this shows up in QBO. Assigned to a particular, all right, so it's a note on a particular customer. Right, that's where it's going to show up. Save that. And you can add new customers and vendors as well from either customer or vendor page. Just click plus, fill out the appropriate information. We'll go back home. So that is the current functionality on the mobile app for QBO. Have a great day.
All right, thank you, Woody. And again, that's a great video that you can share with your customers and show them how to use the mobile app. And again, there's a link on that previous slide that you can access that video. And again, this is just a list of a few things that Woody went through that your clients can do on their mobile phone with QuickBooks Online. Again, exactly the same data that you're looking at in your QuickBooks Online Accountant. So great opportunity there. But we're going to wrap up here in just a couple minutes, and we're going to give you a few next steps to go and do. And then the last couple of slides, we've got some great resources, including a lot more videos that you can use as references to go check out. So Robbie, this has been a great session that we've had. We do want to leave them with a few steps. So first thing,
absolutely get certified as a QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor. Please take the time, let your staff take the time to get certified.
Okay, so that's not just for accountants.
Not just for accountants.
All right, for tax professionals who want to be more effective, automate their workflow, go get certified.
Absolutely. Migrate a test client to QBO. Give it a try. Define your workflow. That's a biggie. We've given you some resources to help you get started on that path. Of course, communicate your cloud platform. Scream it from the mountaintops. Put it on your websites. Let people know that you are here to support them today.
Love that. Love it. So there's a couple of next steps to go do. Also, be sure and tune back in for the next hour with Deb, who's going to cover bundled services and how to frame your services with your clients. Here are a few resources, some great videos in here. There's one here that's on the mobile app. We went through that one. There's also one that covers features that are in QuickBooks Online that are not in the desktop. So sometimes you ask about those things. Several other great ones in there. You'll want to check those out. Here are some links for additional training. Again, this is an overview. We were not trying to give you product training, not trying to give you detailed training. We want to show you how to create that advisory workflow to automate more of your business tax process. But we've got detailed training available if you need that. So thank you very much. We appreciate you all as customers, and really appreciate you tuning in for this session. And thank you so much, Robbie, for being here and sharing your expertise with us.
Absolutely. Super grateful for the opportunity. Hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter if you have any questions. I know it can be overwhelming. Just reach out to me. I'm glad to help anytime. Thank you, Jim.
Love it. All right. We will see you at the next session for bundled services with Deb Kilsheimer. Thank you and have a great day.